Welcome to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. I am back with another one. Okay, this is going to be a quick one, probably like an hour, 30 minutes. However, the title of my stream today, right now, is Trump Cannot Catch a Break. Ugh. Can this man catch a break? Can this man catch a break, please? Can you give this man a break? For some reason, he cannot catch a break. Everybody tries to reach out and say something bad about this dude every single time. Every single time. Every time. Anyway, with that being said, let's delve into the live stream. First of all, take a look at this headline. CNN is saying here that Donald Trump is above the law. How is that even? Who says that? Okay. Who says that? Who would come out here and say Donald Trump is above the law? Nobody says that. And also, Elon Musk may be buying MSNBC or MSDNC, regardless of however you pronounce it. He may be buying them right quick. He may be absolutely buying MSDNC. MSNBC, MSDNC, it is what it is. But he may be buying them, y'all. So we better be ready for Elon Musk owning MSDNC. All right. And let's get straight to the show. Let's see what they're talking about right here.
We have some breaking news. Let's get straight to our Paula Reed. And Paula, we understand that Jack Smith, special counsel, has weighed in on the status of one of Trump's cases. What can you tell us?
That's right. Special counsel Jack Smith is saying that he is going to move to dismiss one of the two criminal cases against President-elect Trump. Here, he is referring to the election subversion case that he filed against President-elect Trump roughly 2 years ago. He is saying that, quote, the country has never faced the circumstances here where you have a pending criminal case against a president-elect. There is internal Justice Department guidance that says you cannot indict or prosecute a sitting president. And here, Jack Smith saying that, quote, this also applies to this situation where you have a president-elect. So he is moving to dismiss the election subversion case against Trump. Now, of course, Trump is facing two federal cases, both brought by the special counsel Jack Smith, this election subversion case, and then also the classified documents case down in Mar-a-Lago. Now, we have reported that the Justice Department and the special counsel's office have been in conversations about exactly how they want to wind down these cases. Now, we have not heard specifically about the Mar-a-Lago documents case yet. That is a little more complicated in terms of winding down because, of course, Trump has.
So they are dropping the election subversion case against the OG because they know that's not going to stand anymore because he is the 47th president-elect. It's like, what are we even suing you for again? Because we don't know what we're doing. And that's what it takes for these people to understand that the American people have given their own mandates and they're like, yo, we love this guy. We believe he's going to fight for us. We believe he's going to keep the border safe, the economy booming, foreign policy. But yet they want to have something to talk about.
Co-defendants there who are not presidents-elect. So we'll be watching to see what the special counsel does here. But in terms of the special counsel's case against Trump related to January 6th and his alleged efforts to interfere with the outcome of the 2020 election, here Jack Smith asking to dismiss this case. Now, this is not a big surprise. A short time ago, a couple weeks ago, Smith has asked the court for more time to, quote, assess the unprecedented circumstances of having a pending case against a president-elect. And they asked the court for more time to assess what they should do. And again, not a huge surprise that they were going to ask to dismiss this case, because the president-elect has made it clear once he's in office, he intends to fire Smith and get rid of his entire office. It was also expected he would get rid of the 2 cases against him. He can do that as president. He can have his attorney general fire the special counsel, dismiss cases. But here it looks like Jack Smith trying to beat him to it and asking for this case to be dismissed. And we're watching and waiting to see if we get a similar filing related to that other federal case pending against the president-elect down in Florida related to the alleged mishandling of classified documents.
Paula, as you said, these filings not coming as a surprise given that Donald Trump won the 2024 election. But stepping back, put this into context for us more broadly, because this is the closure of one of the most significant chapters of the legal woes that Trump has faced. These charges were filed more than a year and a half ago, and a lot of work went into this.
Yeah, I mean, this must be devastating for the special counsel, Jack Smith. He was brought in to handle these 2 cases. But the fact is that there is internal Justice Department guidance that says that you cannot indict or prosecute a sitting president. And they had to discuss with the leadership of the Justice Department, well, what do you do with a pending case against a president-elect? And a source familiar with this thinking tells me, look, Smith is a rules guy. He wants to follow the procedures, the practices of the Justice Department, which is why he is moving to dismiss this case. Now, what's also interesting about this case is this is the case where the Supreme Court had to answer the question of whether the former president at that time, former President Trump, had any immunity to shield him from some of the charges in this case, because his lawyers argued that some of the allegations were related to his official conduct. And the Supreme Court.
Of course, Smith is a rule guy. He wants to follow the procedure before he dismisses the case. What are you even talking about? This man is the president-elect. Let him be the elected president of the United States. Let him do his job, okay? Stop trying to sabotage him before he even gets into the White House. What is going on, guys?
Took roughly 7 months to weigh in on that question. And of course, they did rule that he had some immunity to protect him from prosecution. But if the Supreme Court had weighed in when Jack Smith initially asked them roughly a year ago, last December, it is possible that the special counsel could have had time to bring some case, depending on what would remain after the Supreme Court's analysis. But the Supreme Court, again, waiting 7 months to reveal the answer to that question, making it virtually impossible that the special counsel could bring this case. And this was really the only federal case that they could have realistically brought against Trump before the November election. Even people on both sides of the aisle have told me that the classified documents case was going to take longer, no matter who the judge was. But again, the special counsel definitely hindered by the Supreme Court taking so long here. But look, the Trump lawyers, they also deserve credit. They have very aggressively litigated on behalf of their client pretty much every conceivable constitutional claim that he could make. They have made it, and they were successful even beyond their expectations with the immunity argument at the Supreme Court. But once he became president-elect, they made it clear they were going to press to have all of these cases tossed out. And if they weren't, Trump was going to have his attorney general do it once he or she got into office. So this is not a huge surprise. The special counsel moving to dismiss this historic case.
All right, Paula Reed, thank you so much.
Yeah, please stand by, Paula. We want to discuss this and more with Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman of New York. He sits on the House Homeland Security Committee. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. Just right off the bat, your reaction to Jack Smith announcing that he will file to dismiss the charges in the election subversion case against former President Trump.
Well, look, I certainly understand why he did it, given the Department of Justice policy that you cannot prosecute a sitting president. I think it is a shame for justice in this country. It establishes that Donald Trump is above the law. The Supreme Court put him above the law in that opinion that Paula just mentioned. But now he appears to escape full accountability for what were crimes charged by a grand jury.
Think about where we are right now. Think about what is going on around the globe right now. And this is what they have to talk about. Already going after a man that was voted for by popular votes and by the Electoral College, won every swing state. And they're already attacking him in this manner. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff to work on. He has a mandate that he has a lot of things to do. The border. Putin is right there doing what he has to do. He needs to have a conversation with Putin. He needs to solve this issue. Yet, this is what these people are talking about. This is what he means by enemy within.
And I would just add one other thing that we ought to pay close attention to. We cannot normalize the fact that Donald Trump, as the president-elect, should not be held accountable for crimes that he committed before. If he were to have fired the special counsel, that would be a gross abdication of the independence of the Department of Justice. And if the shoe were on the other foot, for example, and Joe Biden were to have fired David Weiss, who clearly had a politicized investigation because the House Republicans effectively scuttled a plea agreement, everyone would be up in arms. So let's make sure that we don't normalize Donald Trump's political partisan behavior that has no place under our rule of law.
Congressman, you know that the American people were well aware of the charges that Donald Trump was facing in this case and several others. What do you make of the argument that they essentially served as a jury, and by re-electing him and now making him president-elect, they have weighed in on these matters?
I don't give any credence to that argument. I think what was very clear is that people voted for Donald Trump because they thought that he was going to improve the lives of the middle class, and perhaps in addition that he would secure the border. They did not vote for him to dismantle our democracy, to attack the Constitution, to politicize all of our agencies, and certainly not as a referendum on his criminal cases. Those cases should have been played out in a court of law. I believe the Attorney General should have started the investigation a lot earlier. I believe the Supreme Court should have moved much quicker in its opinion. And Donald Trump should not have been able to run out the clock on these charges. But I certainly don't think anything that came from the election was a reflection of support for Donald Trump getting rid of these cases, largely because the American people, as you and I, as well, we don't know what the actual evidence is.
I mean, I imagine that a lot of voters had to know that those cases would go away if he were president, given what you said about the Supreme Court's ruling on immunity. That doesn't change the way you think about this at all? The fact that voters must have known that he wasn't going to prison or be convicted of some of these crimes if he was going to be elected?
Well, look, I think ultimately the majority of voters who voted for Donald Trump decided that, what they're dealing with in their day-to-day lives, understandably matters a lot more than what's going on in a criminal court with Donald Trump. I think it's sad. I think it should be disqualifying, but I certainly understand why people are more focused on their price of groceries, on their job prospects, on the affordability crisis. But I do expect, Boris, that the special counsel will release a very detailed and exhaustive report outlining all of his evidence. That is the ordinary course for a special counsel when they wind down. And I would expect that the special counsel will do that before he leaves office.
And Congressman, before we let you go, I have to ask you about this. You recently introduced a resolution to clarify the Constitution's two-term limit for presidents. Do you think that there's a serious push among Republicans to change federal law to allow Trump to run in 2028?
So essentially, they're saying that we messed up the board, we messed up the economy, and we know this man is the only one that can fix it. However, we're gonna let him go through hell, basically.
Well, let me just give you the example that I just mentioned, which is that it appears to have been completely normalized that Donald Trump could either pardon himself or dismiss criminal charges against him if he becomes president. At one point, that was anathema, and everyone was like, oh my God, that's crazy. That can't possibly be. It's the same thing now. This is how Donald Trump operates. He floats it. He normalizes it, and then it just becomes part of the common parlance. And so we wanted to lay down a marker to say, and put everyone on record, Republicans included, that the Constitution is very clear that he cannot serve another term. And what my fear is that with him floating that, with some of his cabinet picks, which clearly are prioritizing political loyalists, that Donald Trump is well on his way to dismantling our government and the way that it operates. And we and Congress, the Republicans especially in the Senate, need to be a check and balance to ensure that our government continues to function for the people, not for.
Man, thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. Smash the like button, double tap your screen to give this video a like, and subscribe to the channel. These people will not give this man a break. Trump cannot catch a break. Impossible, can it?
All right, I think Carrie Urban's joining us now, John, Fox News legal editor. Carrie, your thoughts?
Yeah, this was the right decision by the Department of Justice. As has been mentioned, we were expecting this, but this is because of DOJ's long-standing policy about not indicting / prosecuting a sitting president. And it looks like that Jack Smith's team did, in fact, seek the guidance of DOJ's Office of Legal Counsel, which is like the general counsel for the Department of Justice, in asking for these cases, the indictment to be dismissed. And OLC concluded that the prohibition on the federal indictment of a sitting president is, quote, categorical. And so that's why we knew this was coming. The Department of Justice made the right decision here following longstanding policy, and also not just the policy, but it's also in the best interest of the country, given Donald Trump's resounding win just recently.
You know, Carrie, we knew that this was going to happen, so it's no surprise, but it is rather interesting to note that after all of this money that was spent, out of all of this time that was spent, all of the prosecutors and the attorneys that Smith had working for his office on these two cases, that it just gets summarily dropped because of two things: the Supreme Court decision about immunity and the fact that a majority of Americans, more than 76 million, said they like Donald Trump. They don't care what he's accused of doing. They wanted him to be president.
But your question gets to the wisdom of even bringing this case in the first place. You have the January 6 cases, you have the classified documents cases. I've said this many times on air. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. And there are all kinds of things that a prosecutor weighs. There are all kinds of things that an attorney general weighs. It's a lot more gray than people realize. Yes, you balance the law, but you also balance what is fair, and you also balance what is good for the health of a nation. When you are coming at a former sitting president and the possible future president, you have to be so incredibly careful, and you better hope, and your case, I should say, better be rock solid. I mean, there's no chance of it getting overturned. There's no novel legal theories, none of that. And in the January 6 cases, that just wasn't true. They were bringing untested legal theories. In other words, they were bringing the law against Donald Trump in a way that it had not been applied before. The Supreme Court addressed actually an aspect of the law that they were attempting to bring against both Donald Trump and all the January 6 defendants. And the Supreme Court said, hey, look, this law that you're using against Trump and these defendants, it's not a blank check that you can kind of insert and write into what you want it to be. And that happened in June. Then you had the Supreme Court immunity decision. And so, again, while, yes, to your point, $50+ million was spent, the reality is it didn't have to happen in the first place. And that's, going to be something debated, I think, by historians for a long time.
Carrie, thank you. Please do stay with us. Jonathan Turley going to jump into the conversation now. The breaking news that Special Counsel Jack Smith has asked the judge to dismiss this Trump D.C. case. Jonathan, also adding to this from our own Jake Gibson, that the Special Counsel, Jack Smith's team, also sought the guidance of the DOJ's Office of Legal Counsel, the OLC, concluded that the prohibition on the federal indictment of a sitting president is categorical. Jonathan, your reaction to the news?
Well, this is what we expected. I wrote over a year ago that there was a good chance Jack Smith would never see the inside of a courtroom for a trial in this case. It made this election the largest effective jury verdict in history by re-electing Donald Trump. The special counsel found himself at odds with his own department's longstanding policy against the prosecution of a sitting president. But Smith did not go quietly into that night. I expect that he did get a lot of different opinions, hoping for the right one. But the OLC, this office that handles such questions, has long taken this position. So it would be doubtful that they would change it here. But, Smith had a sort of a gratuitous end to his term, he pushed not only for a trial before the election, and he pushed for months for that, but he also released damaging information before the election, something that many people saw as an effort to influence the election. Smith knew that if Trump won, he was out of a job. And this release of the information was entirely unnecessary. The judge admitted that it was procedurally irregular, but she went along with it. And I think that did tarnish his position, and certainly in history, because he didn't have to do that. He had become so absolutely fixated on trying Trump before the election that he lost credibility, I think, with the courts. He went up to the Supreme Court. They didn't accept that was the overriding consideration in looking at these legal issues. I think it's also very important to remember that Smith's case was riddled with constitutional problems. When the Supreme Court reached its immunity decision, it was clear that he would have to pare down his indictment. He really didn't do it to the degree he needed to do. He took a very minimalist approach. He removed a few references, a few witnesses that stemmed from the first Trump presidency, but he largely just repackaged it. And some of us said that we thought that it was not enough, that if he ever did go to trial, he could be reversed just on that basis.
I'm Steve.
Thank you for tuning in into the live show. You know what time it is. Look, this man is the president-elect, okay? He was the 45th, and during his time as the 45th, we had the best economy, we had the best border, we had the best foreign policy, we had Abraham's Accord. We didn't have to send billions of munitions to another country that is facilitating what we don't need, okay? Causing so many chaos in the world. All of a sudden, your great Joe Biden gets into the White House, and this whole thing started. Now, was that peace 100%? No, but it wasn't like this, though. You and I can both agree it wasn't like this, though. And now they want to persecute this. They want to keep persecuting a man that was elected by the American people, that was elected by the Electoral College. How long ago has a Republican had the majority vote? How long ago had the popular vote? How long ago? And somebody's saying, would Joe Biden Google what crime Joe did? I don't need to Google what Joe did. You better know Joe, he done did enough.
So let's get back to this. Breaking news. Special counsel Jack Smith asking the judge to dismiss Trump's D.C. case. I want to bring in Congressman Darrell Issa on this. Great to have you on the program, sir. Always appreciate your insight. 4 felony charges here. This was with respect to Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. It resulted in what we saw at the Capitol on January 6th. He's filing a motion now to dismiss. Obviously, that we're watching a barrage of cases and what judges and prosecutors are willing to do as he is now the president-elect.
Shout out to everybody watching the live show. You know what time it is. Double tap your screen to give this video a like. Edgar S. says, well, uneducated people elected him. This is why you lost, bro. This is why the Democrat lost the election. These types of conversation. You like dismissing the American people, the normal everyday American people. Elon Musk is uneducated. Elon Musk was going everywhere to make sure this man became the president of the United States. Vivek Ramaswamy, Tulsi Gabbard, a lot of educated, responsible, hard-working people made sure he became the United States president. This is why you lost, and this is why you may lose the 2020, 2032, or 2028 and 2032 elections too, because you guys would never learn. You would never learn. You like to tell the American people what to think. Well, you guys are uneducated. That's why you're voting for him. Okay. Keep saying that. This is why you would lose in 2028 and 2032. I just pray you keep talking like that. Remember, I was saying this, Average Joe. I was saying this when Kamala Harris was like, well, we need to educate the people. So you're saying the people that voted for Trump are uneducated?
And in January will be inaugurated.
Well, you're exactly right. With the exception of New York, where they're never going to give up and they want to know if they could, shoot him after he's in the grave 20 years from now, if necessary. The rest are using the common sense. The Supreme Court has spoken loud and clear that his actions as president are not open to that in the past or in the future. You understand, Smith is only dismissing that which he was going to lose if he went to court with anyway.
Yeah, that's the big point, Congressman. You took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, the Supreme Court basically said to him, lose the case. I mean, you're be done with the case, dismiss the case. You're going to lose it. We've made the ruling on this. And then he tried to change it a little bit so he could sort of, I don't know, sneak it in under the door or something. Obviously, that was not going to work. So to me, is this a question of, look, the law has finally hit him, or is it the case that he has just seen definitively through what happened in the election? America has said, stop it with all this lawfare, put it to rest. We've elected our president.
You know, I think he wants to get some amount of his own credibility back by acting like he's actually following the law. But he didn't follow the law. He abused the law. This series of events over 4 years is the reason that the House of Representatives has a committee on the weaponization of government. And that committee is headed by Jim Jordan, is not going away. We're going to have to continue to dig deep into the weaponization. Even at the State Department, we're going to have to dig into it where, you know, they're in mourning because their candidate didn't win.
Yeah.
Do you think there's enough digging into that where then these cases are done? Or should Trump be awaiting 2028 when he's no longer the sitting president for these cases to then come back to him?
Well, Trump, his attorney general, and the Congress all have a requirement, and that is over the next 4 years to end once and for all the ability of the federal or even local governments to weaponize. You know, not to dig deep into the Constitution, but the Constitution specifically had a clause in it that said that states and cities could not arrest members of Congress as they transited to and from New York and then Washington, D.C. Well, they put that in because they knew that that kind of misconduct could happen if Virginia didn't like the way Georgia was going to vote. That is true today. The only difference is we don't have a specific written part of the Constitution that makes it clear that the president enjoys those same things, that his official conduct, which includes when he opines on something or decides that something's wrong and says so, it doesn't open him up to civil suits. It doesn't open him up to criminal suits. We didn't do it to Joe Biden. We didn't do it to Jack Kennedy. We didn't do it in the past. They've done it now, and we're not going to let them do it after President Trump leaves office.
All right. Congressman, stay with us. We're going to come back to you in just a moment. We just want to get a little bit more from Lydia Hu on this.
Hi, everyone. Really great to be with you guys.
Just listen to what we're listening to right now. People are in their everyday work, daily, everyday American. The ordinary man is trying to figure out how to pay his bills. The electricity bills has gone all the way up. Everything is going up. Inflation is going up. Sanctuary cities around the United States. Everybody's looking for solutions. These people are talking about still pursuing a trial that is like, what are you, is this isn't what we should be talking about. Because the American people have voted and they've given this man a mandate to secure the border, change the economy for the better, and stop this unnecessary situations around the world. Yet, the media will not stop talking about the past.
On this really big news, we're just getting this in, and we're getting reaction from, Trump's transition team as well. This is coming from Stephen Chung, who's a Trump spokesperson, and also the incoming White House communications director, who is saying, quote, the American people re-elected President Trump with an overwhelming mandate to make America great again. Today's decision by the DOJ ends the unconstitutional federal cases against President Trump. And when I read those first couple of lines, it made me really reflect on this moment and the fact that these cases would likely not be dismissed had President Trump not just won that election, the incredible victory that was, for the people that support the president, but also for himself. He very likely would have still been facing these federal cases. So what this leaves with this now, Judge Chutkan in the D.C. the D.C. District Court will now have to approve the dismissal of this case. And then we'll still have to wait to see what happens with the federal case. That's the documents case that's still unfolding. We're hearing from our colleagues over on the Fox News channel that we do expect a similar motion to be made to dismiss that case as well, which then is just the chipping away of the lawfare. And of course, then what leaves us with is the Manhattan case, this New York City case, which we're still waiting to see how Judge Merchan is going to deal with that.
How many more stays can he take? But it strikes me that the judge, with Jack Smith making the request, that I would be very surprised if the judge doesn't acquiesce. Lydia, thank you for that. Congressman, I want to come back to you because we also have found out who, after Gaetz stepped down, that Pam Bondi would be the next attorney general pick. And Merrick Garland and the DOJ have been under such fire because of this weaponization that we were just talking about a little bit earlier. And it was really interesting to me because on MSNBC, you had one of the guests having a complete meltdown, and it was of epic proportions because of how qualified she actually is. So how does she get in there and try to clean some of this up?
Well, she's going to have an army of deputies because it's more than one person can do. She is somebody who understands how to run a large bureaucracy. She understands the law. She's worked with the federal government. She understands the various elements of DOJ that have been weaponized. And so she's going to have one after another appointments. Some of them need confirmed, some don't. And then she's going to have to root out some of the people that they call them career, but they're the embedded people who text back and forth, needing to have backup plans, needing to have insurance policies if Trump gets elected. She's going to have to find them. And if she can't fire them, she's going to have to move them where they can't do the harm that they've been.
Well, Donald Trump is reportedly
Look, Americans are tired of this talks. Okay, we are tired of all of this stuff. These are just distractions. Okay, this is only going to make Trump supporters incredibly loyal. This is only going to make Trump supporters go bonkers and say, you know what, we're going to keep supporting this man no matter what you throw at this man. This is what the media don't understand. I don't know why they don't understand this stuff. This is something you should understand. The more you talk about stuff like this, the more they want to support Donald Trump. The more you talk about stuff like this, the more they say, well, now we're going to show you. Just focus on the economy, bro. Focus on the border. Like, just focus on making sure there's peace. Like, unite the country. Can you unite the country first before you start dividing? Can we please unite the country? And can we please start bringing down prices? Like, you're just making his supporters more loyal. And you're converting more Democrats to become a Republican.
looking to Wall Street to shake up the military-industrial complex. Should be interesting how that works out. Joining me now is Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville. Senator, great to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Before we talk about whether Wall Street can work with the new administration to cut corners in the Pentagon, talk for a moment about how the Pentagon has become so stuck in their ways. The old revolving door between the generals who work at the Pentagon and then they go to work for the military contractors. I mean, we've been hearing that for decades, going way back to Eisenhower. Is it true, and is it time, or is it possible to break that up?
Well, you're exactly right, David. The American people want it to happen. We saw that a couple of weeks ago when President Trump was elected. It was a mandate to change business as usual. We're losing money right and left, David. There's so much fraud. There's so much theft. You know, the defense agency, if you include the intelligence, is $1 trillion business, and it is out of control. We're spending, you know, when you hear $500 for a hammer, a lot of that is not true. But even if it's 20% true, the American people are sick and tired of it, and they want accountability, and we don't have any accountability right now. Nobody pays the price for making a mistake or losing money or money going out the door that's going places it shouldn't go.
And the problem is that not only is it just the money that's wasted, which is bad enough, but we're stuck with these outdated weapons system because not only are they protected by their friends in the military.
There is no way the Pentagon should be failing audits for 7 times in a row. And yet you want to talk about the president-elect when the Pentagon has been failing audits, and then the Department of Education, according to news source, they failed their audit 3 times. So these government bodies are failing audits. Even some IRS agents are failing audits, or workers are failing audits. Look, man, we got to talk about what really matters, okay? Stop trying to push things that don't matter. The American people deserve be be the subjects. Like, the people that elected you have to be the people that you're concerned about, not just one person, no one. Like, nah, let's stop this, man. Let's stop all of this stuff.
Industrial complex, and there's this revolving door that I talked about, but you also have a lot of members of Congress who get to rely on these contractor projects in their own districts, and they're very reticent to get rid of them, to bring in new blood. And that's why this Wall Street Journal piece was interesting, because it's talking about bringing in these new people who are on the cutting edge of weapons technology, who need to be given a chance in the Pentagon rather than relying on these old systems that are stuck with old politicians.
Well, you're exactly right. We need a COO. We need to shake it up. We need people in there that actually know a budget, know how to spend a budget, know how to be accountable for it. The American people deserve that. David, the problem we have coming up is space is the new frontier. And there's going to be trillions of dollars spent in the next 10, 15, 20 years on space, because it's probably going to be where the next war happens. And we have to have somebody in there that's accountable for that. It's going to get more and more expensive to fight these wars, to defend our country, to train our people. Hopefully we get more people in the military that will protect this country. But again, go back to the American taxpayer. 30% of the money that comes into this to the federal government, 30% out of a dollar that the people, taxpayers, send to Washington, D.C. is either stolen or is missing. And it's wrong. And the people are sick of it. And Donald Trump's going to try to do it. He's got good people that are interested in do it, but we got to give them the reins to get it done.
By the way, again, it's more than just money. You look at what's the problems that Trump is going to face as soon as he gets into office, with the Biden administration ratcheting up the war in Ukraine with these new weapons that he's giving to the Ukrainians to shoot missiles deep inside of Russia. And then, for God's sakes, landmines. I thought the UN had all lectured us about the awful danger to civilians of landmines. How does he deal with the new ratcheting up of the war in Ukraine that's been going on over the past couple of months?
Yeah, very disappointing in what the Biden administration is doing. I know behind the scenes, President Trump does have some of his people talking to people in the Biden administration. But, right now, I'll just tell you this. Russia's losing 1,000 people a day. 1,000 people a day are dying in this war. That should never have been fought. And all we had to do was promise Vladimir Putin we would not make Ukraine NATO. But that's water underneath the bridge now. President Trump's got to get it over with. And one of the first things he has to do is sit down with President Putin, get it done, get a boundary that both Ukraine and Russia can live with, and get on with life. But we have destroyed the young people of Russia, the young people of Ukraine, and it's been devastating to our pocketbook. We have spent $211 billion, and only the world, if NATO's only spent about $52 billion. So look what the American taxpayer, David, has had to pay for this war as compared to everybody else all over the world, $52 billion. It's wrong, but we've got to get out of this, and the only one that can do it is Donald Trump.
By the way, one of the brainiacs who hasn't been mentioned as part of the administration yet is Rick Grenell, the former ambassador to Germany. Some people suggesting that he could be a roving ambassador for peace in places like Ukraine, in places like the Middle East. He's had a lot of experience in doing that, going back to his days at the UN. Do you think that's a position that could have some effect for the Trump administration?
Matt Whitaker obviously is in NATO. He's going to do a great job there. He's never been an ambassador before, but he understands the problem. First of all, you have to know the problem. And Rick Grenell Matt Whitaker. These guys have been with President Trump. They know how he deals and works out things behind the scenes, and they'll all work together. Rick Grinnell would be perfect to go to, to work with President Trump, side by side. But I'm going to tell you, to get this done, to get it out of the way, David, Donald J. Trump is on.
All right, so I'm reading the chat right now, and somebody's saying, well, Trump had inflation too. I never said Trump never had inflation. However, you had affordable gas prices. You had low mortgage rate. You didn't even think about having an unsecure border. That wasn't even a conversation. You didn't even think about talking about Ukraine, Russia, Israel, the Palestinian people. That wasn't a conversation. You didn't think about sending billions of munitions to you. You didn't think about that. So I can take, if you're telling me you're spending money for the country to make the country better, then it's okay. In my opinion, bro, it is okay. But you cannot be spending money on unnecessary things and then be causing inflation. That's not going to work, man.
The only one's going to be able to put the signature on the line between Ukraine and Russia to make this thing work and get us out of this devastating loss of life and loss of money for both Ukraine, United States, and for Russia.
Then we have the intel agencies, and we got the Tulsi Gabbard picked to be the new DNI, the Director of National Intel. She, of course, has been attacked as being pro-Putin, and because of a trip she took to Syria back in 2015, a lot of stuff. In fact, the independent newspaper just considered her to be a Moscow-friendly MAGA warrior, whatever the hell that means, because after all, it was President Trump who blew up about 250 Russian mercenaries in Syria. It doesn't sound like he was very pro-Putin then, does it?
No. Tulsi Gabbard is in this position for intel. She's 20 years in. She understands it. But, David, you go back to one thing. The Democrats are going to do everything they possibly can to stop anybody. I don't care who President Trump puts up. They're going to try to throw up a roadblock November the 5th. It really was just war, and winning the war is going to be try to knock down all these neocons and Democrats in the next 4 or 5 months to get these wars under control and get people in place that can actually negotiate. We have no diplomacy in this country right now. Joe Biden's at the beach. Kamala Harris is in Hawaii. Who's running the ship? And people are dying every day, and American taxpayers' money is going out the door. We've got to end this stuff, but we got to get people in place that we.
Okay, so I'm seeing some chat right here saying is tax cut was for the rich. No, if you started a business, LLC, doesn't matter, small businesses, everybody got a tax. Everybody got it. Everybody got it. Every single person got it. Even the middle class got it. But you're just echoing what the media says. Well, he's only cutting taxes for the rich. No, bro. Everybody got it. What else? No, he's not. No, he promised them tax. Who else is in the chat if you get paid? Channel says, I hope you get paid ahead of time for your blogging. Laugh it, Lord. That's the thing. Even Americans, I was not born in the United States. Americans don't even like to talk about American stuff. It's like, I love America so much, and I wasn't even born here. I became a United States citizen, and I love the United States. Most Americans don't even like the United States. That's just sad. Telling you, man.
But first, live to Bill Maloogian at the border, back at the border for the first time in 7 months. We start with Bill in Eagle Pass, Texas. Good morning there.
Bill, good morning to you as well. When Tom Homan arrives here tomorrow, he is going to be sending a message, and that message is that the Trump administration wants to be a partner for the state of Texas, not an adversary like we've seen with the Biden administration, which has essentially sued Texas every single time they've tried to secure their own border. Here in Eagle Pass, things have remained very active. Take a look at this video. This was shot right here yesterday by Texas state troopers, which encountered a large group of 200 illegal immigrants that just crossed here. Now, mixed in with that group, look at this, 60 unaccompanied migrant children, some as young as 2 years old. These are tiny little kids who are here with no adults, no guardians, being trafficked into the country by drug cartels and human smugglers. Some of them have little pieces of paper with addresses scribbled on them, places they want to go in the country to reunite with friends or family. And Texas troopers talked to some of these kids about where they're going. Some of the states we heard: Florida, California, Texas, New York, Missouri, Washington, Wisconsin, many others. And some of these kids included a 2-year-old girl. Yes, a 2-year-old girl, completely alone. She was from El Salvador, had a paper with an address on it, and she told Texas troopers she wants to meet with her family here in the U.S. Take a listen.
Venezuela, mamá. Venezuela. ¿Sí? ¿Qué tantos años tienes? ¿Dos años? ¿No vienes con tu mamá y tu papá? ¿No? ¿Venezuela? ¿Para dónde vas, mamá? ¿Dónde están? ¿Estados Unidos?
And mixed in with that group of more than 200 people were also this handful of illegal immigrants from the African countries of Mali and Angola, as we continue to see people from halfway around the world showing up here at our southern border. Again, it's not just Mexico and the Northern Triangle countries. They are literally coming from all around the planet. That includes this group of guys as well. Take a look at these photos here. This was last week here in Eagle Pass. Texas DPS apprehending this group of men from Afghanistan who crossed here in Eagle Pass. Now, all these guys are going to be considered what DHS calls special interest aliens due to national security concerns. These guys should receive additional DHS vetting, but as we've seen many times in the past now, sometimes that does not always happen. And then lastly, take a look at this drone video Texas DPS gave us. What they're doing out here in Eagle Pass is they're running what they call mass migration drills, basically trying to prepare for any mass rush or migrant caravan that could try to run the border here sometime before Trump shows up in office. They want to show a posture that the red carpet is not going to be rolled out. You will be deterred if you try to cross illegally. And back out here live, as for all those unaccompanied kids we were showing you, remember President Biden's executive order, his crackdown he did back in June, it does not apply to unaccompanied children. As for what happens to them next, Border Patrol will transfer them to HHS. HHS will then be responsible for caring for them. They will then try to find them adult sponsors or family all across the United States. And guys, the important point, if RFK Jr. gets confirmed as the next HHS Secretary for Donald Trump, RFK Jr. is going to be responsible for caring for these migrant kids when they show up here at our southern border.
So you're in Maverick County, Bill. How did the border issue resonate with voters in this election?
Everywhere we went, all over the campaign trail, everybody was talking about the economy and the border. It was always in the top two lists of issues. And everything's going to change down here. I mean, you think about it. It's going to be a 180 in posture from the federal government. We're standing in Shelby Park right now, which is still completely locked down by the state of Texas. Remember, they kicked out Biden's Border Patrol because they were getting so fed up with the barbed wire being cut, heavy machinery being brought in here to tear up Texas barriers. The Biden administration sued Texas when they were trying to put the buoys in the water, when they were trying to pass SB 4, their own border security bill. Abbott got so frustrated, he eventually started busing migrants to sanctuary cities around the country. The idea being, if you're not going to take the border seriously, we're going to bring the border to you. So look, the Trump administration ran on the border. It resonated with voters. They wanted a change. It looks like they're going to get a change because we have Tom Homan coming down here now. He'll be here with Governor Abbott, wants to shake the hands of the Texas troopers, shake the hands.
Just think about the kids, 2 years old, 4 years old, 6 years old. Think about the children. This is sad to see, sad to hear. To know that some kids are out there, no parents, and they're in another country far from home. All because, they're looking for a safer place or a safe haven or a greener pasture. This is just sad. This is sad. Somebody needs to take charge of this. Somebody needs to be responsible for this. Tom Homan needs to come do. Tom Homan for sure, because that man ain't playing around. He's not playing around. He's not playing around.
Of the Texas National Guard, look them in the eye and say, a new sheriff is in town. We're going to be your partners. We're going to help you secure this border.
Bill, you answered the question about mass deportations, but let me ask you this and how Texas is preparing. Do you have any insight into how the cartels are preparing for this change?
The cartels always seem to adapt to whatever policy is in effect at the border, and they're very, very good at that. It might take them weeks or months to adapt, but we saw that once Title 42 ended. We saw more rushes of people coming across the border. Texas is preparing in a big way, though. You guys might have heard Texas is actually giving the Trump administration a plot of land over 1,000 acres down in the Rio Grande Valley to kind of set up camps to help carry out these mass deportations. That is not something we could ever imagine happening under the Biden administration. There has been a very adversarial relationship with Texas and the Biden administration, and come January, after Trump's inaugurated, we're likely going to see that do a total 180, and everything's going to switch down here.
Yeah. Regardless, this is going to be a story for the next 4 years for sure. Bill, good to have you back there at your post, Eagle Pass, Texas.
Yes,
Bill
thank you,
Malusian.
Bill. And Democrats in Massachusetts are doubling down on their efforts to hinder looming deportations. One city, Somerville, is set to vote tomorrow on a resolution to reaffirm its sanctuary city status. That comes just days after ICE agents nabbed an illegal immigrant there who's wanted for drug trafficking back in Brazil. Molly Line is in Boston with the details. Molly, do they have the votes to reaffirm?
We shall see, Dana. I hate to get ahead of the city council there. That's a nearby community just outside of Boston. Boston, also a sanctuary city. There are about a half a dozen sanctuary cities across the state of Massachusetts. But focusing on Somerville, the city council is going to take this up. They've had actually a long-held commitment since the late 80s to being a sanctuary city, and that vote expected tomorrow. The move coming, though, just a week after and despite ICE agents arrested an accused and wanted drug trafficker from Brazil in that city. ICE has blurred his face, blurred his name. That's being withheld. But ICE Boston reports that this 38-year-old will now face justice in his home country. Somerville's refurbished a resolution would include funding for legal representation for people facing deportation and reaffirms a promise that the police department will not cooperate with external law enforcement agencies on matters related to immigration detainment. ICE Boston has been very busy across the Bay State in just recent months, arresting at least 17 men accused of sex crimes, including child rape. According to the Enforcement and Removal Operations arm of ICE Boston, these men are all here illegally. At least 9 of the men are what's commonly referred to as gotaways. In several cases, the accused men were released into the public despite ICE detainer requests. For instance, 21-year-old Maynard D. Paz Munoz, a Guatemalan national, was charged with rape of a child by force in February, arrested by the Great Barrington Police Department. ICE Boston reports that a detainer was lodged but then ignored. Great Barrington is a sanctuary city. De Paz Munoz was released on bail, and ICE officials were able to arrest him months later on November 12th. There's been a long back and forth going between the Boston mayor and the governor here in the state of Massachusetts and federal officials, the mayor and the governor, promising to push back against Trump's plans at mass deportation. Dana, back to you.
All right, Molly Line, thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Kayleigh McEnany here on a Monday morning. Nice to see you. Fox News Sunday with Jillian Turner working for Shannon. The Democratic Senator from Pennsylvania, John Fetterman, on the risk Democrats took by ignoring the border issue in this election.
One area where we kind of lost ourselves was the border. It can't be controversial for our party to be pro-immigration, but we need a secure border. And when we ask or demand people to not believe what they see and see those kind of numbers, that's not a problem.
He was warning even before the election about immigration.
One thing is for sure, the border needs to be well taken care of. And this is one of the reasons why people voted for Donald J. Trump. And now Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is ICE, they're going to be busy this next 4 years. They're going to be absolutely busy. And Tom Homan, oh, man, you better be ready, man. And that's the thing. Like, if you come to the United States, your goal should be, what do I have to do? What I have to follow the law. It's not, this is, if you weren't born here, you just follow the law. Do not come in here illegally and figure out how to neutralize or become a United States citizen. There's so many ways for you to become a United States citizen.
Especially in Pennsylvania. Biden and Harris did very little on this for 4 years.
Very little. You remember when Biden came under scrutiny for not visiting the border as president. His first visit comes in January of 2023. Kamala Harris went in 2021, and then her next visit was as a candidate in September of 2024. They did not take this seriously. They also must have not been listening to focus groups, looking at polls. CBS just came out and said 57% of Americans want to deport all illegal immigrants, all of them, 57%. That's a huge number. They chose not to take it seriously. They chose to ignore the polls, and here we are.
So there was another incident this weekend in Virginia where there was an attempted rape, and thankfully the woman was able to fight off her attacker. But Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin wrote this: "I am heartsick for this victim and outraged that local Fairfax County officials recklessly released violent illegal immigrants who should have been prosecuted and deported. When President Trump takes office, the political posturing will end and localities will cooperate with ICE to protect Virginians." This is actually then also from the New York City Police Department. I want to read this to you here from the New York Post. "In New York City, it would take a lifetime to clear the city of the criminals that we have. The only people they're shielding are the criminals, and they're shielding the criminals from us." That's the New York City ICE director to the New York Post.
And Kenneth Grinaldo there went on to say the victims are the most vulnerable. They are migrant women, they are migrant children. The most vulnerable suffer, including American citizens, by the way, too. You know, Glenn Youngkin, that rape that happened in the park, how horrendous. They had not had a rape by a stranger in that park in 12 years. And then this happens, an individual who had 2 years of history of sexual assaults or peepings. And yet this happens, totally preventable. Just where Tom Homan is going to visit, you had special interest aliens from Africa coming across. It's a huge problem. And the fact that mayors are doubling down, it will be interesting to see what happens here in New York, though, because Eric Adams has indicated he wants to work with the federal government in private. We know sanctuary city laws prohibit him from doing some things, but it will be a real interesting test case to see what happens.
About 2 weeks ago, he said we have to question our sanctuary status, which, in my view, is a huge move for a Democratic big city mayor in America today. Under Barack Obama, 8 years now, you had 5.3 million removals and returns. That got very little coverage in the media. I imagine it'll be different.
Remember when President Obama was in there and this lady, I think it was what's that girl? Man, I forgot her name. She said she calls him deporter in chief. He deported a lot of people.
Different now under Trump.
Yes, and President Trump's going to try to do the same, but you will have the media seizing on pictures and images. They will put it up. They will try to make this a huge scandal, ignoring the past and the precedent with President Obama. There's no doubt about it. So they have to do this carefully. But I just think public sentiment has changed. We're a long way from where we were in 2016 when President Trump was floating some of these ideas that did not have majority support. Now they do. Politically, we're in a different place. So I'm not sure the media antics will work the same way.
Well, and you have to ask, so what changed? And the Democrats have no one to blame but themselves. If they didn't want this to happen, the fact that they let the border just be completely open for 4 years means that that's how you get the kind of numbers where people are like, yes, we think mass deportations are necessary.
And then you have a 2-year-old Venezuelan girl crossing the border alone. My son turns 2 on Friday. He can barely walk up the stairs. She got to our
Man, double tap your screen to give this video a like. Let's get it. Let's get the likes up. Let's get the likes up, people. Thank you for tuning into the live show. It is your boy Genesis. What is CNN talking about? Trump lawyers investigate top Trump aide. What is this man cannot catch a break, bro. He's finally here trying to make sure the border is secure, trying to make sure the economy bounces back, trying to make sure all this chaos happening around the world calms down, yet they don't want him to have a good time doing it.
3 breaking stories to start this hour, all of them involving President-elect Trump. First, 2 major legal victories for him. Special counsel Jack Smith ending the federal election subversion case against the president-elect. And then just moments later, Smith said he is also dropping the federal classified document case against Trump. Also breaking this afternoon, a CNN exclusive. One of Trump's closest advisors now under investigation by Trump's own attorneys. Sources tell CNN the top aide is facing allegations of using his ties to Trump for financial gain. Let's get right to that CNN exclusive with CNN Sarah Murray and Kristen Holmes joining us now. So Sarah, in terms of what we're looking at here, first of all, who is the Trump aide? What is he accused of doing?
Yeah, well, this is Boris Epshteyn, who's been a longtime aide to Donald Trump and has acted as a legal advisor for him as well over the years. And basically, lawyers who are running this internal investigation have claimed that Epshteyn tried to gain financially from his influence with Trump and others in the Trump world. You know, there are 2 specific instances we learned about from sources involved in this investigation, around this investigation. And one of them was that Epshteyn tried to ask Scott Bessent, Donald Trump's pick to be the Treasury Secretary, for payment in exchange essentially for Epstein promoting Bessent's name around Mar-a-Lago as well as with Trump. There was another instance when Epstein asked for payment allegedly from someone and said he would connect him with people relevant to his industry in the incoming administration. Now, half a dozen sources confirmed this internal investigation to me, Kristen Holmes, our colleague Kate Sullivan. It's not a criminal investigation. This is an internal investigation that attorneys for Donald Trump have been running, but they were concerned enough about their findings to recommend that Epstein should be removed from Trump's orbit. Now, here is what Epstein had to say about all of this. He said in a statement to CNN, "I am honored to work for President Trump and with his team. These fake claims are false and defamatory and will not distract us from making America great again."
So as we have all that, Kristen, you have this exclusive reporting as well, noting that Epstein was involved in 2 shouting matches, including one involving Elon Musk. Tell us more about the tension, the divisiveness there.
Yeah, it's certainly feeling like a drama-filled Mar-a-Lago because both of these occurred at that beach resort. One of them, again, between Elon Musk and Boris Epstein. The thing that was so interesting about this when we were reporting out this story is that a number of the people we talked to said it was Elon Musk himself who had raised these issues and allegations against Boris, and that was apparently what happened when they were having this confrontation. Elon Musk leveling accusations at Boris at everything from allegations on pay for play, but also leaking information. The second outburst or kind of confrontation that we learned about from several witnesses at Mar-a-Lago was between Bessent and Elon Musk, and it was, Bessent and Boris Epstein, with Epstein shouting at Bessent, essentially saying he was going to sue him at some point. So a lot of wild times over at Mar-a-Lago goes to show you that even though they're having a more orderly transition, some of the knife wielding is clearly still going on.
And just give us a sense of how close, Kristen, Epstein and Trump have become over the years and how this all plays in, too, as well as with the transition team.
Well, he is a staple by Donald Trump's side. He has been sitting in on some of the most critical transition meetings, even though he doesn't really have an official role. He is credited with raising Matt Gaetz's name to Trump and really getting that out there. Obviously, Gaetz has now withdrawn that name. He also helped staff the Justice Department jobs as well as the White House counsel job. These are all things that some of the newcomers into Trump's circle have been surprised about how much influence that Boris Epstein has. Now, the other thing to note here is that the transition says, yes, this internal investigation happened and we are all moving forward together, but we did just see this. This was an interview Donald Trump did, and he was asked about it on a conservative outlet. And I want to read you what he said, because it certainly doesn't sound as kumbaya as what we got from the transition. It says, "I suppose every president has people around them who try to make money off them on the outside. It's a shame, but it happens. But no one working for me in any capacity should be looking to make money. They should only be here to make America great again. No one can promise any endorsement or nomination except me. I make these decisions on my own, period." So obviously you can look into that and what you will. Transition says they're moving forward, but now we know for certain this has been brought to Donald Trump's attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Kristen Holmes, Sarah Murray, thank you both for the reporting. Well, the other major development involving President-elect Trump, Special Counsel Jack Smith says he is ending both the January 6 election subversion case and the classified documents case. CNN Chief Legal Affairs Correspondent Paula Reed is with me now. So, Paula, walk us through what Smith said in this filing and what it means ultimately.
Erica, it's fascinating. Smith acknowledges that this is an unprecedented situation that he found himself in, saying, quote, "The Department of Justice and the country have never faced the circumstance here when a defendant is elected president." And they had asked for more time to reflect on what exactly the next move would be here. CNN has reported that Smith had been talking to top leaders at the Justice Department to discuss how exactly they should proceed with winding down their cases. Now, there's internal guidance in the Justice Department that says you cannot indict or prosecute a sitting president, but it wasn't clear if that applied to a president-elect. But after weeks of discussions, they have concluded that, in fact, it does apply to a president-elect, and, quote, "This prosecution must be dismissed before the defendant is inaugurated." But Smith is quick to point out that this does not reflect the merit of their work and of these cases, and he defended the prosecutions that they have tried to bring against Trump, saying that this decision does not turn on the gravity of the crimes charged, the strength of the government's proof, or the merits of the prosecution, which the government stands fully behind. Now, that was all related to the D.C. case. They're also moving to dismiss the classified documents case against Trump, but they will continue to prosecute his two co-defendants because, of course, they are not presidents-elect. And it'll be fascinating, Erica, to see what the Trump Justice Department does with this case, because a Trump-appointed judge, Eileen Cannon, had tossed the classified documents case, saying that special counsel Jack Smith was not properly appointed. So when the Trump Justice Department comes in, if they want to appoint their own special counsels to look into politically sensitive topics, they're going to have to contend with the fact that you do have this outstanding decision. So we'll be watching closely to see if Trump pardons his co-defendants, if they try to dismiss that case, or if they continue to fight this issue and protect their right to appoint special counsels. This is going to be a key issue to watch for the incoming Attorney General.
Yeah, we will certainly be watching for that one, Paula. Also, in terms of dropping, and you alluded to this, but dropping the charges against the president-elect without prejudice, as you pointed out, he's saying he believes there's still something here. Does that actually keep the door open, though, for charges that could, in theory, be brought in the future, which would be several years in the future?
Ever so slightly, Erica, but I'm pretty sure that Trump's attorneys are going to advise him to pardon himself. And speaking with sources inside the Justice Department for about a decade now about the possibility of preemptive pardons, there is a belief that that pardon power is absolute and that a president could preemptively pardon themselves. So yes, there's always a possibility, but I would certainly expect that his lawyers would advise him for a number of reasons to preemptively pardon himself to prevent any of these federal cases from coming back. And of course, there's no pardon he can give himself that will protect him from any state cases that are still lingering once he's out of office.
Yes, that is true, as we keep our eyes on Georgia. Paula Reed, appreciate it. Thank you. Also with us this hour, Adam Kinzinger, former Republican congressman of Illinois, and of course a member of the January 6th committee, and Bill Brennan, former Trump Organization attorney. It's good to see both of you this afternoon. So Bill, starting with you, as we look at this, Jack Smith had a whole lot of testimony and evidence here. What are the chances the American public sees some of that information he collected? Will we see a report?
Well, I mean, a special counsel often issues a report, but this, as Mr. Smith admits, is unprecedented, uncharted waters. So the defendant is now the president-elect of the United States. This is the right thing to do. This country needs to move forward. President Trump needs to govern this nation. If we just look back to the Clinton administration and see how distracting it was for Ken Starr to continue to prosecute President Clinton over a personal indiscretion, you know, history shows us that these issues pale in comparison to the larger issues of running the country. So it's the right thing to do.
Congressman, when you look at this, you, of course, sat on the January 6th committee, which did make a criminal referral to the Justice Department regarding Trump's actions on the day of the riot. You're going to have plenty of people who feel justice was not served. What's your reaction to where we stand at this point?
Yeah, I mean, look, justice wasn't served. I mean, I guess, you know, as a member of the January 6th committee, we can take pride in the fact that we are the only basically historic record. And I guarantee you that in 10 years, America's going to learn the truth about January 6th, and nobody's going to think Donald Trump was in the right. So I take pride in that. But look, the Supreme Court made it very clear. It was very clear.
Shout out to everybody tuning in. God bless you. So here, Franklin T. Justice says Smith is trying to save himself, that there was no case in the first place. So he's trying to save himself now before he get pounced on. You can't make this up, people.
Clear that if Donald Trump won again, that these cases would be dropped. In fact, that's why the Trump campaign, or Donald Trump as a defendant, was stalling as long as he was by the chance that he would win again. So America made this decision. They made the decision that Donald Trump shouldn't be held accountable. In essence, they made a decision they want a king. And that's America's decision to make. Now, I would just encourage everybody to remember, if the shoe ever gets on the other foot in the next 10 or 15, 20 years, and it's the Democrats doing this, this is a decision that was made by Republicans. And so that's interesting. By the way, you know, Bill Clinton's indiscretion was not a personal indiscretion. There was a 19-year-old intern.
They would never let this clip go. This clip right here of J6, they're never going to let it go. This clip is going to play forever. And that's something that, you know, Trump would have to live with. However, it's like, they would never let it go. It's impossible. Okay, double tap your screen. Let's get the likes up. Let's get the likes up. Let's get the likes up, guys. Now, Dems grapple with election defeat. This is something that I know for a fact that they've been really thinking about. Like, how did Trump win with everything we had to, put him through? Because the normal everyday American care about their bills, the economy, the border. We don't care about all of your sentiments and emotions and feelings, like feelings and emotions pays the bill. None of those things pay the bills.
New leadership in the wake of President-elect Trump and Republicans wins this election. But Vice President Harris does not appear ready to step aside. Some Republicans are thrilled. According to Politico, quote, Harris is telling her advisors and allies to keep her political options open. She could run again for president or California governor. But as the VP tries to figure out her next steps, fellow Democrats are trying to identify just where they missed the mark this election.
One area where we kind of lost ourselves was the border. It can't be controversial for our party to be pro-immigration, but we need a secure border. And when we ask or demand people to not believe what they see and see those kind of numbers that's not a problem, it's like, well, then you lose about that 100%.
The Democrats, since NAFTA, workers have drifted away from the Democratic Party. I think we've drifted away as a party.
I do think the Democratic Party has to recognize the challenge we have, which is for too many millions of battleground voters, working people, they don't think we represent them. Look, I think the entire Democratic Party bears a responsibility, myself included, and the former president.
Paul, I think those are all very fair points. You'll never hear me say that about Adam Schiff, but I'll say that today. But is there going to be this true postmortem, this existential crisis analysis among Democrats?
No. And here's why I believe that they are not capable of doing this, because
Democrat, listen to your leaders. Democrats in the chat, listen to your leaders. They're telling you, I think we effed up. I think we really effed up, okay? So, start licking your wounds, Democrats in the chat.
that party has ideologically been captured by the campus elites, and they became a party of boutique issues that only make sense on the campuses. The problem for them is that these sort of university elites that control the narrative of the people who end up in most of media. And consequently, it's going to be very, very hard for them to walk away from that messaging to try to come back to a place where the Republicans already are. They have to occupy a space now where Trumpism sits. For years we've been hearing there needs to be a third party, The Republicans made themselves the third party. And so as a result, it's going to be tough for them to sort of segue that way. One thing real quick, but we do have to recognize that Trumpism can't be based upon only Donald Trump, because he's maybe got 2, at most 4 years. You need a successor. It can't be about the messenger. It has to be about the message. He has to concretize, institutionalize some of the stuff that he's talked about that has tracked the Republicans into the middle. The way you do that is statutes. You got to put these things in law. It can't be on the strength of personality. And so what I'd like to see is some sort of a recognition among this class of professional wrestlers coming in that they realize we got to lock this stuff in place. Yeah. Otherwise, it goes away with Donald Trump. We can't afford that.
Without a doubt. And on the conversation of messenger and message, I think that's an appropriate conversation for Democrats, too. James Carville, who was very bullish on Kamala winning, obviously didn't happen. He had something to say about where Democrats go from here. He said, showcase the talent we have. I would have a mini convention in 2026. I would invite people to someplace convenient, invite some of the staggering talent to give speeches to show people, let people see, let ideas permeate, but see who can carry the message of the party. Kennedy, I bring this up because I don't think, look, Wes Moore, talented communicator. Josh Shapiro, talented communicator. I don't think a new communicator is enough. They need to shift this message. This was a wipeout. Donald Trump won the popular vote.
They have to stop listening to James Carville for advice. He's great when he's being Cassandra and he's giving negative analysis on the Democrat Party because he's one of the few people who is actually telling the truth. But it's not just the messenger. And that's the problem that they have. It's these ideas. It's the fact that she was asked repeatedly, and it's not just her. I mean, it was everyone around her from the Biden camp and the Obama camp giving her horrible advice Because, how many whacks at the pinata did she have when she was asked, what would you do differently? And she couldn't name anything. I mean, not only was it preposterous and incompetent, it's also insulting to voters who don't have any money. They don't have any disposable income at all whatsoever. But what he's talking about, the mini primary, that's what they wanted to do when Biden resigned. But instead, Biden stepped out in front of it, stepped in it, and named her as a de facto nominee. So they were stuck with her. So the party obviously has warring factions. They're not going to be able to get together anytime soon. And I agree with Paul on that it's going to take a lot more than, the moderate pearl clutching they're doing right now to have a meaningful change.
Emily, there are 6 words that Kamala has been communicating to allies on the phone from Hawaii, and it is, I am staying in the fight. Okay, she loves the word fight, but staying in the fight, I mean, you lost. I think a lot of Republicans would say, yeah, we hope you're the nominee because you lost and you'll probably lose again.
Right. Look, the puppet can say what it wants. She's essentially saying, OK, I'm the empty vessel. Use me. Put me where you want. She was always only a prop. I agree wholeheartedly. The Democratic Party right now is an abscess. It is a festering abscess. And what needs to happen if they want to have any type.
One thing is for sure, why is the vice president in Hawaii when all of this stuff is going on in the United States? Why are you in Hawaii? You on vacation when things are popping off? Yeah, that's not going to work.
Of health, or to Carville's point, if they actually, or actually to Adam Schiff's point, if they want to feel represented in any way, there needs to be a serious audit where the crust is thrown off, where the Pelosi's and the Schiffs are discarded, and those on campus who actually aren't the product of the sort of mechanized, baked-in communist professorial academic elite, but really actually those of thought, connect with the party and say, here's how we move forward. Here's how we articulate intelligently and thoughtfully our democratic values, whatever that means, which, by the way, used to just be big government, right? So what does that look like here exactly in these programs? And then have that flourish. But that's not happening anytime soon because they're just going to keep trotting out Gavin Newsom and really old people and telling us that they know better than you.
Cheryl, I'm going to call myself a political psychopath because we are 3 years out from knowing who the Democrat nominee is, and those of us psychopaths are already thinking about it.
You're a great psychopath.
I'm a great
You're my
psychopath.
favorites.
But Kamala does lead the early polls, again, psychotically looking at them, but so did.
Man, shout out to everybody watching the live show. Double tap your screen twice to give this video a like. Let's get the likes up. Okay, shout out to Lampy Lamp Live. He said she should be working on the things she said she had fixed. She didn't win, bro, and that's her excuse. That would be her excuse. She has to win to do stuff for the United States. You are the vice president of the United States. You don't have to win to do stuff. You already won. But that would be her excuse, Lampy. That would be a 100% excuse, saying I didn't win, so I can't do anything. I have to take a vacation. Bro.
Hillary, and then she fell when others came on the scene.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, Brian Williams said it best to Seth Meyers. He said, it is insulting when you tell the working class of America that they're paying $40 for a dozen, bounty rolls, but the rich can afford it, but they can't. It's insulting to say that there's nothing wrong with the border. Yep. They insulted the working class of this country, and the working class voted for Donald Trump, full stop. And really quick, the Journal actually had a great point about what their problem is, and it was Bidenomics. And it says the architects of Bidenomics are in denial. They're still in denial about this. They say the argument, what the Biden administration did worked fine, and if you didn't like it, well, then Trump was going to be worse. Yeah, well, the American people said that's absolutely not correct. And they said, the Latinos in Arizona said, hey, I'm going to the grocery store, I can't afford it, and I'm not voting for, business as usual.
Yeah, they also.
Well, like you heard, Bidenomics didn't work. And she campaigned based on Bidenomics, so bye-bye to Bidenomics. And now let the legend, the Don, the 45th, now the 47th president-elect do his job. And don't even make it worse. Don't make it hard for him. Because now, what is Biden doing with telling people to, let Ukraine use the firepower? What is going on, bro? Relax. You got days to go. You got weeks to leave. Stop making decisions that would affect long term. Come on, bro. All right, what's going on with the tariff in China, man?
So let's bring in O'Leary Ventures chairman and Shark Tank investor Kevin O'Leary to react to this. So Kevin, there's so much to ask you about, but let's start with that last report. Are you surprised that no one's sort of auditing the IRS, and when they do, they find out $1.5 billion in unpaid federal employee taxes are out there?
No, it doesn't surprise me, but in the context of taxes owed, $1.5 billion is a drop in the bucket. But it's an embarrassment for them, no question about it, and they'll have to fix it. Obviously, if this was done intentionally by any of these employees, you have to whack them. You have to make an example of it. But I bet a lot of this is just falls through the cracks, and it's another example of inefficiencies in government.
Right. Right, and leading to what Vivek and Elon Musk are trying to do. So, Kevin, as someone who knows business, you look at the markets, positive attitudes among business owners that I talked with. Is this rally in the markets because of all-around hope, or do you think we're in that honeymoon period for the president-elect?
Well, every president gets a honeymoon period. It's not very long, but this is a very ambitious agenda. The benefit for Trump is he does have a majority mandate for at least 2 years to implement a lot of this. But what's really driving this market is the sense of uncertainty being removed, because you got to remember there were two different visions of the economy. One was at 28% tax with price controls, and this is a vision of an economy with lower taxes and less regulation. The real steam in this market is the confidence of small business and large business leaders saying, I'm going to pull the trigger on CapEx now. I'm ready to do the next project. And I can feel the burden of regulation being taken off my back. And that's very, very powerful in an economy the size of the U.S. This is very good. And that little tweak on energy, I'm loving that. That is fantastic. And I think 3 million barrels, no, that's not enough. Let's go for 8 million barrels. That would really give our economy complete independence of energy.
Right. Well, and it might, lower the price of oil around the globe. So Iran might not be able to afford what they're doing. Russia might not be able to afford their illicit activity. So I wanted to ask you quickly about the tariff plan, though. There's no dispute that tariffs are a tax on every product. And we saw President-elect Trump use tariffs without price increases in his first term. Could this plan, though, backfire this time around?
No, it's not going to backfire. Most of the tariffs being put in place are level playing field tariffs. If someone's tariffing us, for example, Germany in cars, we're doing the same thing to them at 10%. Canada, Mexico, we've already got a deal. We're renegotiating another one next year. But it's China. We've got to bring those guys to the table. And I think we got to crank those tariffs up on them to start bankrupting some of their businesses. If the supreme leader knows he's going to get unemployment because of tariff policy in the U.S., because they don't get access to our markets, he'll come to right away. The only thing that keeps him as the supreme leader is everybody gets employed. And so when you start really cutting into his economy, when you hurt him, when you cause pain in his economy, it's not the Chinese people I'm concerned about. Nothing wrong with them. The supreme leader only understands pain. And as soon as you give him pain, he wants Advil. And the way to get Advil is to fly to Washington and cut a deal.
Do you think, though, the Chinese have learned from the last time dealing with President-elect Trump, and they're going to do things a little differently this time around? Maybe their counter move will be a little more biting for the U.S.?
No. They hate Trump, and they're scared you-know-what of him. He's so unpredictable. And maybe that's what you need with a supreme leader. I tell you, this focuses on economic war, and I live it every day in the businesses I invest in. They cheat, they steal, they copy, they flood markets. These guys play dirty, and they've been doing that since 1999, not just in the U.S. market. In the European markets as well, everybody's getting screwed by the Chinese. And as long as we let them continue to do it and we give them the kumbaya treatment, which the last administration did, it's time to change all that. Bring them to the table through the stick and pain. I say 400% tariffs on the industries that employ a lot of Chinese workers. The minute they see that coming, chop, chop, they'll be in Washington.
You know, and it was President-elect Trump who, the first administration, really brought this Chinese debate to the forefront. So one more thing. I want to ask you about Bitcoin. It's been flirting with that $100,000 level. We've seen it sell off again today. They're down 3,800 right now. Is this sustainable, or do you see this coming back down to a more 60,000, 70,000 range?
No, I think it's sustainable. Really, what's going on here is year-end correction of portfolios. There's many mandates that are not allowed to go past 20% in any one sector. The same thing happened to us last week. I mean, Bitcoin blew through all of our expectations. It's way overweighted in many portfolios. We had no choice but to trim it just by the internal compliance mandates. Everybody's doing that around the world. It'll settle in, but it's when we get compliance through regulation, whether it's going to be the CFTC or when Gensler's gone out of the SEC and we get better policy, we'll find institutional investors buying them bigger weighting. It's not uncommon in a pension plan to put in 1% to 3% in an alternative asset like Bitcoin. I see this way past $100,000 next year.
Interesting. So, Kevin O'Leary, rapid.
Man, shout out to everybody tuning in, man. Let's get the likes up, people. Double tap your screen to like this video. All you got to do is double tap your screen right here. Double tap. Man, double tap your screen twice, and you'd have given this video a like, okay? What do you guys think about the Department of Government Efficiency? Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, also, does anybody have Bitcoin in the chat? Let me know how your Bitcoin is doing. And that is based on the president-elect, just the news of the president-elect being there.
Welcome back. Democrat politicians are vowing to oppose the incoming Trump administration's agenda. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy giving this warning to Trump. Watch this.
As we respect the peaceful transition of power, that if there is any attack on the Garden State or on any of its communities from Washington, I will fight back with every fiber of my being.
Joining me now is New Jersey Congressman Jeff Van Drew, a member of the House Judiciary, Transportation, and Infrastructure Committees. Congressman, I realize that, Kamala Harris won New Jersey, but I believe Trump lost it by like 5 points or something. What do you make of Phil Murphy and this resistance?
Arrogance. Arrogance is the word. We got closer in New Jersey without anybody on the ground, with not spending a dollar, because we couldn't. It was funny. President Trump called me up close to a year ago and said, Van Drew, I want you to be my chair for the state of New Jersey. I want to win it. And, I said, thank you very much, Mr. President. Boy, that's a tough job. Here's the deal. Normally, we always lose New Jersey as Republicans statewide by close to 20 points. We got within 5, and that was without spending a penny. Governor Murphy isn't listening to the people, and this is typical of the ultra-left. They're arrogant, and he thinks that, the people are stupid. They don't understand what they did, and we're still going to fight this. Who would fight having secure borders? Who would fight removing criminals and murderers, rapists, and people on the terror watch list from our country? Why would you fight that? That isn't the values of good New Jerseyans or good Americans.
Well, by the way, you did a great job running the effort there in New Jersey, Congressman. Congratulations to you. I mean, it was such a close race in New Jersey, and nobody thought that deep blue areas like Jersey and New York would get this close and have so much support. But that's exactly what happened. I also think, though, that Phil Murphy needs to understand the ramifications of those comments. I spoke yesterday with Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's heading up this new House subcommittee that will work along with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, cutting waste, the Department of Government Efficiency. Greene joined me and discussed how Congress can help cut waste. Watch this.
We want to look deeply at these contracts and these government programs to see if they really make sense anymore. There are so many government agencies and government programs and contracts that their cause, their purpose has expired and they're no longer needed. It's not just contracts. Let's talk about federal employees that haven't showed up to work ever since COVID. We're also looking at we have thousands of buildings that the federal government owns and pays for with over $15 billion a year. But yet those government buildings sit empty and these government employees stay at home. If they use their police officers and their resources to harbor and protect illegal criminal aliens, then absolutely those sanctuary states and cities are in danger of losing their federal funding, and rightfully so.
So, I mean, that was a pretty important statement there, Congressman. Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be heading up this subcommittee to cut waste, and she's going right toward those sanctuary cities. If they learn that they're harboring illegal criminals, they're going to lose their federal funding. Do you think Phil Murphy understands that?
I don't know that he cares. I mean, I think that for him, he would just increase taxes. That's the usual route that we go in the state of New Jersey and these blue states. I applaud what she's doing. We haven't announced the committee chairs, but I know she's going to do good work, and I look forward to working with her. Speaking to Jim Jordan, my chair that I work very closely with, he and I are going to do some really exciting things in the Judiciary Committee as far as at the oversight level, looking at what the Attorney General is doing, looking at what the Department of Justice is doing, looking at what the FBI is doing. There's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse there. A lot of lack of vision. So we have some exciting, I think, announcements next year concerning that as well. This is a good time. We're going to listen to the people. We're going to get government back on track. It is the job of government. We work for the people. The people don't work for us. This message was sent.
I think a lot of people are very optimistic about this, Congressman. Jonathan Fahey, jump in here because you heard what Marjorie Taylor Greene said, right, on the sanctuary cities.
Yeah, I believe Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. First of all, Elon Musk has proven himself to be a good person for the world. There's been a positive change in this world. That's not even a conversation. Everybody knows that facts. And Vivek is a businessman with over $1 billion in net worth. Now, this is to check if the government is spending right. So, Department of Government Efficiency. So, it's just to make sure they're efficient in what they're doing. And these businessmen have proven to themselves and to the world and to their businesses that they are efficient spenders. Okay, so I think they're going to do a great job.
I think that's great. And what Phil Murphy is doing is so disingenuous because on one hand, he's trying to suggest that sanctuary cities or sanctuary states are sort of protecting the innocent, the hardworking. But what they're really doing is protecting people that are committing crimes in this country, like the.
And this is just the people. This is for the people at the back, okay? People who don't understand this. Average Joe said, weak men think a strong offensive means a full war. Nobody wins in a war. Shout out to Average Joe one more time, man. Shout out to Vicky Ward. Shout out to Vicky Ward. Vicky Ward says officially Trump had no war. I mean, this is just a game. Everybody knows Trump supports peace. Okay? Trump went to North Korea. No United States president has ever been to North Korea. Am I lying? Trump met with Putin, shook his hand, look him in the eyes and say, you ain't finna do nothing. That's what a commander-in-chief does. He is a diplomat. He wants peace and he wants to calm the tension. That's what you do as a commander-in-chief, as the leader. You calm the tension. You talk to people. You open up a conversation channel. Jesus.
Killer of Laken Riley. And when Phil Murphy says he'll fight to the death, well, she literally fought to the death because of these sanctuary cities policies. But Congressman Drew, I know you've been totally all over this issue, but what can Congress do, not just with respect to government waste, but can they pass some bill, or can you make it part of the tax bill, part of the salt reduction? If you're going to be a sanctuary city, maybe we don't give you that. Or what can be done, because this needs to end. Laken Riley, there should be never be another situation like that.
The vast majority of New Jerseyans would agree with that. Yes, we want the salt deduction. I'd have no problem with linking that, though, to the fact that you can't be a city or a sanctuary state. Bill Murphy made New Jersey a sanctuary state.
Yeah.
His administration is afraid to admit that now, but that's absolutely true. And real quickly, we let out over 113,000 illegals who were rapists and murderers into our country, and it's got to stop. And people want it to stop. They want a safe country and support.
Yeah, of course.
All right, people. Thank you for tuning into the live show. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams, and never give up on God. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. Believe in God. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get the likes up. Let me show you how to like the video one more time. You double tap your screen twice. Double tap your screen twice. That is how to like the live show. Okay, let's get the likes up. Let's get the likes up, people. Thank you for tuning in one more time. It is your boy Genesis. Thank you to all the veterans in the chat. Thank you so much. You guys are the best. Thank you to the veterans and thank you to the moderators. Average Joe, God bless you, Brody. Vicky Ward, God bless you for tuning in. Everybody, thank you, Tom Robertson. And for the people that said I was going to be locked up in a whatever camp or sent back for whatever my accent, thank you still, okay? Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for spending time here. Thank you for watching. I love you guys, man, regardless of whatever you say, okay? I'm a grown up. I pay bills. I got a family. Got thick skin, okay? None of those things affect me. I still love you, bro. I love you, okay? Thank you so much. It is what it is. Genesis is tuning out.
Thank you so much.
There you go. There you have it. Now tell them to like the live stream.
Tell them to like the live stream.
No, you just say like the live stream. Say, hey, like the live stream.
Hey, like the live stream.
And subscribe to the channel.
And double tap your screen twice.
Double tap the screen.
Double tap it twice if you need me twice. Okay,